All right, let's dive right in. For a lot of us, mountain biking isn't just some weekend hobby, right? It's a full blown lifestyle. It's our main workout, our ultimate stress relief, and how we connect with nature. But what exactly happens when you throw a massive, life altering variable into the mix? I'm talking, of course, about pregnancy. In today's explainer, we're taking a really close look at the pregnant rider's guide to the trail. It's a topic that absolutely demands some objective evaluation because suddenly the stakes are just so much higher. Those old rules of, pushing through the burn, yeah, they just don't apply anymore.
To help us navigate this journey, let's take a quick look at our trail map for this explainer. First, doctor first, ride second. 2. The unique risks of MTB. 3. How pregnancy changes riding. 4. Adjusting your trail style. And finally, number 5, warning signs and active alternatives.
Okay, jumping right into section 1, doctor first, ride second. Consulting your healthcare provider. Look, this entire process is incredibly individualized. The absolute first, and honestly the most important step, before you even look at your bike gear, is having a totally frank conversation with your doctor. And you're not just popping in for a generic green light here. You need to sit down and discuss your overall health, your pre-pregnancy fitness level, whether you're classified as low risk or high risk, and any pregnancy-related complications. Your provider actually uses these exact points to figure out if mountain biking makes sense for your unique situation. Because while exercise is usually highly encouraged during pregnancy, the type of exercise matters deeply, and you really need a professional to look at your specific data.
Moving right along to section 2, the unique risks of mountain biking. Basically, why it's so different from just going for a walk.
Think about standard prenatal workouts for a second. Walking, swimming, or just spinning on a stationary bike, those are super predictable. They happen in completely controlled environments. But out on the trail, it's a totally different story. You're constantly facing loose gravel, unexpected roots and rocks, erratic wildlife popping out of nowhere, and potential mechanical issues miles away from the trailhead. The crucial takeaway here is the unpredictability. Standard exercise carries a very low fall risk, but mountain biking, even for the absolute most experienced riders out there, it just inherently carries a higher risk of falling. It's literally just the nature of the sport.
That brings us to section 3. How pregnancy changes riding. We're going to look at the biological shifts happening out on the trail. Let's break down these physical changes, because honestly, it's fascinating biology at work. First up, balance shifts. As a baby grows, your center of gravity literally moves forward. In a sport where your body positioning is quite literally everything, trying to maintain your balance on technical terrain suddenly turns into this completely new mathematical equation for your brain to solve. Then there's the increased fatigue. You're building a human. Your baseline energy demands are through the roof. A climb that used to be your easy warm-up might suddenly feel like a massive, exhausting effort. And third, heat sensitivity. Overheating and dehydration happen way faster when you're pregnant, which makes summer rides particularly hazardous if you aren't perfectly prepared. Now, we absolutely need to spotlight a really critical biological change here, and that is joint laxity. During pregnancy, hormonal changes literally loosen up your ligaments and joints to prepare your body for childbirth. Now, just think about what that means when you're strapped onto a mountain bike. In a dynamic sport where you are constantly absorbing shock, cornering super hard, and bracing yourself against rough terrain, those loosened ligaments directly elevate your risk of physical injury. It's kind of like your body's natural shock absorbers are effectively detuned. This is exactly why this matters. A minor slip or bump that you'd normally just brush off could easily result in a sprain or a tear. All right, on to section 4, adjusting your trail style, pivoting your ride. So what does this all mean? How do we actively adapt? Well, the explainer lays out 5 clear steps. 1, choose smoother trails. 2, avoid jumps and drops. 3, consciously reduce your speed. 4, skip the highly technical terrain. And 5, ride shorter distances. The big takeaway here is that your fundamental goal on the bike just has to change. It is no longer about progression, right? It's not about setting personal records or tackling that really gnarly rock garden. The goal shifts entirely to simply enjoying the outdoors, getting some fresh air, and just keeping your legs moving safely. Now, right about here, a very logical question usually pops up for the modern rider. What about e-bikes? It's a question I hear constantly. Can we just hop on a pedal assist motor to create this safer, low-effort workaround? Well, let's burst that bubble just a little bit and look at the reality here. Yes, pedal assist absolutely reduces your physical effort, which, hey, is fantastic for managing that pregnancy fatigue we talked about earlier. But, and this is a massive but, it does not eliminate the risk of falls, crashes, or those technical trail hazards. An e-bike doesn't magically make a wet route less slippery, you know? It doesn't make the gravel any less loose. The environmental dangers of the trail remain exactly the same. So please, don't fall into the trap of thinking an e-bike is some magic safety net. You still have to manage the actual terrain. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Warning Signs and Active Alternatives, knowing exactly when to transition. The biggest rule here, listen to your body. Pregnancy is absolutely not the time to be chasing personal records or trying to push through discomfort. As mountain bikers, we're totally conditioned to ignore the burn and push past the pain cave, but you really have to unlearn that instinct right now. If your body says no, or if something just feels off, the ride is over. Full stop. In fact, there are some very hard physiological limits that you need to be constantly scanning for. If you experience things like dizziness, chest pain, shortness of breath before you even start exerting yourself, vaginal bleeding, painful contractions, fluid leakage, or severe abdominal pain, you need to stop exercising immediately and call your doctor. Seriously. These are not just, hey, I should take a water break signals. These are severe red flags that absolutely necessitate immediate medical attention.
But hey, stepping off the mountain bike for a bit does not mean your active lifestyle just disappears. There are some fantastic, low-risk alternatives for maintaining your fitness. Walking or hiking still gets you that essential outdoor nature fix. Stationary cycling lets you keep your pedal stroke and your cardio up, but without any of the fall risk. Swimming is just incredibly supportive and cooling for a pregnant body. Prenatal yoga is amazing for mobility and prepping for labor. And of course, provider-approved strength training keeps those muscles engaged and strong. Transitioning to these activities keeps you totally healthy while dramatically reducing your overall risk.
As we step back and look at the big picture, always remember this quote from the source material. Pregnancy is temporary. The trails will still be there when you are ready to return. You definitely don't lose your identity as a mountain biker just because your rig is hanging up in the garage for a few months. Have patience, protect yourself and your baby, and just keep that long-term perspective in mind. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. When the stakes are this high, isn't redefining what a good workout looks like just another more mature way of leveling up your endurance? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.